Okay, now let's go ahead and make this a little more complicated, and we're going to use some objects to do this. So we've already seen objects pretty much throughout the class because it's hard to get away from objects entirely in JavaScript because everything's an object. An object is just a collection of properties. So for example, the value object, which is of type function, has a name property, and the math object has a square root property, and these can be any value. They can be numeric, or they can be other objects or arrays or what have you. And so what I'm going to do, because I want to add a couple more columns to this table, is instead of just sort of hard coding function calls and text and such like, I'm going to have an array of objects, one for each column, and the object is going to have a couple of properties on it. It's going to have a name property that has the header for the column, and it's also going to have a value property that describes how to take a value and get the result for that column. So I'll think of a better name for that as we go. So for example, right now it has two columns, and the value for the first column is generated using type string value function. I'm sorry. The value for the first column is generated using the string value function. Value for the second column is generated using type string value. And so let's go ahead and just do it. All right, so this is going to be my type table columns. And this is going to be an array, and I'll just start with two columns. So the first column is going to have an immediate object in it. We indent that. And that's going to have two properties, a name property, which is going to be value, and it's going to have, let's call it a generator, because it's generating values. And this is going to be a function. And the function for the value column is going to be string value. And that's all I need for now. And then the second column is also going to have a name, and that's going to be type. And the generator for this column is going to be string type value. And then I'm going to end my array. And then the first thing I want to do is when I'm generating my header, with this generate type header, I'm going to loop through my type table columns to generate these header values. So let's restructure this a little bit. So we'll add a carriage return new line there, and then for counter equals 0, counter less than type table columns dot length counter plus plus. I'm going to do something for each entry in the columns, and then actually, so that's going to be a result. I'm going to add a th plus, then I want to get the header property, the name property for this item in type table columns. So that's going to be type table columns subcounter dot name. And then I'm going to close off my table header and carriage return new line. And then I want to indent this, so I'll do a space there. And that's going to generate my header. And then I'm also going to add a tr to close off the table row and return results. Okay, so this should work the same now if I haven't messed up. And I have messed up, so go to the debugger, go to the console. String type value is not defined. So let's go ahead and see what it was supposed to be. Type string value. Okay, so that works exactly the same. And then I'm going to do the same thing for generating the values. So that's going to be generate type row. So we'll start with result is table row. And then for counter 0, counter less than type table columns dot length counter plus plus. And then here I'm going to set result plus equal a cell plus, and then I want to get the generator for type table columns subcounter. And then this is a function, so to call that on value, I just say open paren value close paren plus close off my table cell, carriage return new line, and space that a little bit. And then at the end of the row, I'm going to close off my table row, carriage return new line, and then return results. So let's go ahead and see if I get the same thing, and I do. So that might have seemed like a lot of work for nothing, but then watch what happens when I do this. So we'll add another one. For Boolean value. And this is going to be a function that takes a value and returns Boolean of value. And I'm spelled generator. And then if I, actually let me fix the indentation. And then if I reload, little mistake. Oh, I forgot a curly bracket here. Should be right there. And since I made a mistake, I'm going to go ahead and indent this properly. There. So this is an anonymous function that I'm just using for the generator. And it works. So we see 0 is false, 1, 1, the string 1, the string 1. These are all true. Not a number is false. Infinity is true. Null and undefined are false. And then all of these objects are true. And then Boolean false is false. And then I'm going to do one more column here. So this is going to be value equal true. And the generator here is just going to return value equal true. Close the function, close the object. Good. And we see some of these are different. So I see that the string 0 is true when you convert it to a Boolean value, but it's false when you compare it to true using equal. And the reason why this is false is because when you do value equal true for some values, what it does is it converts both things into numbers. So true gets converted to the number 1, false is 0, true is 1, and then value for double quote 0 double quote gets converted to the number 0. So this expression turns into 0 equal 1, which is false. This one turns into 1 equals 1, which is true. And then let me add one more value up here for the number 2. So we see 2 is Boolean true, but when you compare it to true, you get 2 equal 1, which is false. And then a lot of these other things like not a number, infinity, minus infinity, and so on, none of these things are equal to true, even though some of them are true when you convert them directly into Booleans. And of course, true is equal true.